need and guide us during this time of healing and renewal. Bless this meeting and our chairman of the day to our use and us to your service. Amen.
Welcome, guests.
Welcome, guests. Sally's in the house. Sally Hazard's joining us from the desert. She's, of course, our wonderful former president and longtime San Diego Kiwanian. However, she's in the desert now, and I believe she's going to have a special guest of her own from the Palm Springs Kiwanis Club joining us at about 12:30. So welcome, Sally. Did Carl just logged on? Good to see you, Carl. Welcome today.
Thank you.
And let's see, our chairman of the day is Gordon Borner. Do you want to welcome our guest today?
I think, Mike, we're gonna before we introduce Gordon, we're gonna do some fines, because one of our fines has to leave early, and I want to make sure we get our bucks today. So
good call.
Let's just go right into fines, and then we'll introduce our awesome chairman.
Good call. Yeah, we're going to have to definitely fine both Gordon and Jim Floros for the really splashy appearance in this month's Giving magazine. And Gordon, you want to say a little bit about that image there?
Well, all I'm going to say is I don't know that splashy refers to my picture there, but Jim clearly is splashy on the cover of Giving Back magazine. It doesn't get much splashier than that. Jim, thank you for the little subliminal to San Diego State, rolling the red and black into your white tux coat. Really appreciate that on behalf of all the SDS viewers, okay?
That was my intention. We could superimpose your head onto my body if you like. We could Photoshop that. And you too can get fined. All right, I'm good for $100.
Oh wow, thank you, sir. That is tremendous.
You're gonna have to throw me in to match on that $100, because even though I'm not on the splashy cover and in splashy tux, I do get a double down for having my picture, as well as courtesy of Just in Time having the US Bank symbol in there. So we'll take 50 for US Bank side of me, 50 side for my gray beard, and make it 100 and match Floros in the splashy cover.
You two
sounds like 150 to me, Gordon.
That's tremendous, guys. Congratulations on all the great work you do in the community collectively. Jim, I don't know if it gets much better than that. It's, white coat, seriously, Casablanca style. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
The best part about that is they wanted me to have a white dinner coat, dinner jacket for the photo shoot. I didn't have one. I was running all over town over the weekend because I couldn't even rent one. And Men's Warehouse had one, only had one. It was my size. It was on sale, normally $350. It was on sale for $60.
Oh,
that is karma right there.
Jim, I wish you'd have called me. I have one you could just borrow. It's a 42 long that I paid $25 for, used at that tuxedo shop that used to be on Broadway upstairs, and they sold used tuxedos. So I do it, like for a cruise or when I have to, be on the cover of Rolling Stone.
When was that, Jay? In 1925?
Yeah. Weren't you one of the James Bonds? Yeah, I'm a 44 long, Jay. It would have been a little tight.
Okay.
Kind of.
Maybe I think what we should do is we should have a white jacket day, and everybody can pull out their thrift store buys, their Men's Warehouse good deal of the day buys, 1920s vintage buys. We'll have a big time.
And Brian Krause can show up in his bathrobe.
Nobody wants that.
No, he don't.
That's great. Thanks again, guys, for the contributions, and fines. Now to our masters of ceremonies and our chairman of the day, Gordon Borner, if you would like to welcome guests today.
Thanks, Mike. So welcome, Kiwanians. I know a lot of you already know a lot about this organization, and you should, quite frankly, because it's a critical and valuable organization to the entire community. Just in Time's been around. Jennifer's going to tell you more, but they've been around for 18 years. They've grown to 36 employees. And for those of you that were on early, You heard Caitlin, you got a little initial dose of Caitlin that we're going to get to hear more about. But I've had the honor and the privilege of supporting financially and volunteer-wise, including my daughter, including my Gonzaga daughter, supporting this organization for the last 7 to 8 years or so. And now I'm even more honored and privileged to have become part of their board of directors for the last 16 to 17 months or so. So tremendous organization. And today, I'm happy to introduce Jennifer Tellitz and Caitlin Radigan from our Investor Relations Department, specifically and intentionally named that way. And with that, I will hand it over to Jennifer to take it from there. And Jennifer, I know you have a slideshow too.
Thank you, Gordon. Do I have permission to share the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Let me get this going. Can you all see that?
Yes.
You sure can. Looks great.
Great. Thanks again for the introduction, Gordon. Hello, everyone. And first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting us to present to the Kiwanis Club of San Diego. As Gordon said, my name is Jennifer Tellitz, and I am the Investor Relations Manager at Just in Time for Foster Youth. That's part of our language. We say investor instead of donor because we believe people are actually investing in a solution. I'm also here with Caitlin Radigan. She's a youth participant, and she's now a current just-in-time employee too. I want to start by telling you just a little bit more about our mission and why just-in-time is so critical. So when foster youth exit the foster care system at 18, many of them find themselves navigating this gray area between adolescence and adulthood, between living within the child welfare system or being completely on their own. This year, more than 4,000 youth will age out of the system just in California alone. And specifically, they're going to be really leaping straight into the headwinds of COVID, kind of a ravaged economy with few resources or connections. So in comparison, their peers from healthy families this past year, they went through a mass migration, moving back in home with their parents to shelter in place. And this happened at a rate not seen since the Great Depression. And I would say most, if not all of our youth did not have that opportunity. And that's where we come in. So let me get to the next slide. We recognize that youth typically leave foster care without not necessarily having the knowledge, experience, training, resources, or relationships to really thrive on their own. And that makes them some of our most vulnerable. Not to say that they're broken, because that's not the kind of language we use. We operate from a mindset that our youth are creative, resourceful, and whole, but they lack support. And what experience tells us, and the national statistics make it clear, is that when we expect an 18-year-old, now remember yourself at 18, when we expect an 18-year-old foster youth to virtually fend for themselves with no parental safety net, coupled with limited success in college, no financial security, and a government system that's really filled with a lot of barriers, the consequences are pretty traumatic. So just to give you a little bit of statistical information, I don't really like to go into statistics too much, but within 18 months of leaving care, usually about 40 to 50% of former foster youth become homeless. And they actually surpass our veterans as the largest homeless subpopulation in the nation. About 25% of former foster youth will end up in jail, probably within the first 2 years of emancipation, and 50% of our female foster youth become pregnant by the age of 19. And when you look at college education, only about 3 to 6% of former foster youth will actually graduate from college. But just in time, what we do, we dedicate ourselves to filling these gaps for these young people and connecting them to a community. And this community includes hundreds of their peers. Our staff, which is just like Caitlin, is comprised of 60% of former foster youth. Our JIT alumni, who they're the ages of 27, 35, they're still actively involved in our community. Plus we have a little over 700 volunteers and about 150 collaborative community partners. We offer assistance at all levels, and we like to say, just like as a loving family would. And our goal, and it's a lofty one, is to break the cycle of foster care. And we will do this by achieving long-term measurable impact in multiple areas: stable housing, essential education, financial security, reliable transportation, meaningful employment, not just a job, but meaningful employment. And something that's often overlooked is their overall health and well-being. Right now, we currently serve 900 young people throughout the San Diego County. And we really meet both the needs of our youth and trying to provide both that short-term stabilization coupled with like the long-term capacity building for their futures. One of the things that we've learned that's really a key critical component to them to build their self-sufficiency is the building of relationships with one or more caring, stable adults. This is why the one-on-one relationships are really at the heart of what we do, and it's incorporated into every one of our services, our coaches and mentors. And it's really why volunteers are so important to the work we do and the JIT community. And you heard Caitlin speak a little bit earlier about COVID and its impact and how we remained open. So for us, the impact began last March when it did for everybody else, but it was when our annual fundraiser was canceled due to the mandated social distancing restrictions that were put in place. And that happened just 2 days before our event. So that was a fun scramble because that annual event makes up about 20% of our annual revenue. And we had anticipated last year that we would get $850,000 in net revenue. So once we knew that we couldn't do the event, that wasn't possible, we accelerated a plan we'd already been working on to create an online event platform for it. So we just put all of our efforts into that. And we did miss our revenue goal. But I will say that we still managed to raise $750,000 of the $850,000, and that was through the generosity of individual support, not government support, not foundation support. It was individual support. And we just focused on our why, the ABCs, right? Adapt to the new normal because things were changing and we were going to have to change routines and plans, be proactive and, start innovating for what we were going to be dealing with the pandemic and with the unknown. And a big piece was that communication. So communication to our youth, to our volunteers, to our funders, to each other. With all the uncertainty that was flying around during the pandemic, we wanted to be a clear source of information. And I will say that in the last year, both our basic needs and our mental health requests, that's where we saw the really big impact. Like those numbers just skyrocketed. Everything from loss of jobs, one of our youth, she had a great job teaching autistic children. Then her hours are cut due to COVID. She begins applying for other full-time positions, but in the meantime, she can't make her rent. Another youth celebrated her birthday by herself in her hotel room. It was the first day of lockdown. She had just aged out of her last housing program. And then she found us. And this is where just-in-time stepping in is extremely important because these young people, they don't have that additional safety net. So while COVID-19 really impacted our organization, but it was really primarily our youth that were impacted. We're really happy to now see a light at the end of the tunnel. And I will say that overall, we've been really lucky as compared to others. As Caitlin mentioned earlier at the beginning of the meeting, we never closed our doors. We were able to continue to serve our youth. And I'm very grateful for that. And speaking of gratitude, I'm gonna pass the baton over to Caitlin. She's a very inspiring young woman, as you will hear about in just a few minutes, and let her share her story and her experiences.
Thank you, Jennifer. And hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Caitlin, and I'm a former foster youth, as well as a just-in-time alumni participant and a staff member. But to give you some background on my story, I am the oldest of 3 girls. We do not know our fathers. They were absent because they were either murdered, serving a life sentence in prison, or just not around. And my mother was an alcoholic, so she moved us around a lot. By the 6th grade, I had attended 8 schools in 4 states. And by the 8th grade, my mother started to disappear for weeks at a time and leave my sisters and I in sketchy places. So it was in the 8th grade at 13 years old when I dropped out of school and became a child prostitute. And I won't horrify you with the details of that time in my life, but I share that with you because my story is not unique. Foster youth are often exploited. And it's something that people don't really like to talk about, but I think we need to talk about it because we do have the power to impact and save lives. I was eventually picked up by Vice detectives at age 15 and taken to juvenile hall, where I became a ward of the court. And for the next 300 days, well, sorry, not 300 days, for the next 890 days, which is almost 3 years, I was in custody with no control over my own life. I did take advantage of the educational opportunities that I had by studying for my GED and starting community college while I was in custody. But then I was eventually released to a group home in Los Angeles. And I stayed there for a couple months and I ran away. And I found myself on the streets of LA homeless. I got involved in some really bad drugs. It started with cocaine and then a mixture of crack and meth and heroin. And so if you fast forward to October 2015, I was living in downtown San Diego between two shopping carts under a blue tarp with a needle in my arm every day. And at that point in my life, I felt like a piece of trash on the side of the road. I didn't see any future outside of death or prison. My life basically seemed over. It was in October of 2016 that I learned I was pregnant, and I knew that I had to find the power to change. So that day in October was the last time I put a needle in my arm. I quit everything cold turkey, and I started taking care of myself. I found a couch to sleep on, and I gave birth to a perfectly healthy, beautiful baby girl. Her name is Tommy Marie, and she's the best thing that ever happened to me. You can see pictures on this slide of me and her. And at that point, I was doing better. I got a minimum wage job caring for a disabled Vietnam veteran, and I signed myself back up for school. But I was still struggling. I was still couch surfing. And I was so scared of this responsibility of raising a little human. I would ask myself, how am I going to save her life? How am I going to provide the life she deserves as a single mom in San Diego? And then one day I heard a radio commercial for Just in Time for Foster Youth. And I went into the office. I was greeted by the most caring community of people I've ever met. I didn't know then that Just in Time would be the best thing that ever happened to me. Because immediately my life began to transform. I started to attend every workshop and every service. I learned how to open my first bank account and how to budget through financial fitness. And I was able to save up enough money to sign my first lease and move into my apartment, which Just in Time furnished. And my baby and I were able to enjoy the holiday season in the comfort of our new home. And all those tangible things, were such a blessing to be able to have. But the service that really transformed my life was Rise to Resilience. Rise to Resilience taught me how to open up about my childhood traumas and really begin the healing process. And I'm not sure how many of you know about ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences, but I score a 10 out of 10, meaning that before the age of 18, I was spoken to aggressively. I was physically harmed. I was left alone. I wasn't taken to the doctors or dentists. I was often writing a family member in prison. And, all of those things that make my 10 out of 10 score make my likelihood for chronic depression and alcoholism, stroke, and heart disease tripled. And those conditions have already started showing up. I had a stroke at age 22. So the tools that Just in Time has given me to learn how to heal and cope with toxic stress and learn about nutrition and exercise and sleep have really allowed me to live a much healthier life. And the community that I have now with my peers and my coaches and my mentors, I have that support for life and has really changed the entire trajectory of my entire life. So I'm so grateful to be a part of Just in Time. And today I'm working on a bachelor's at San Diego State Fowler's College of Business. I got a full ride, and I work in the development office. Just in Time has kickstarted my career. And I'm just so grateful to be here and advocate for peers who walked a similar path as me. So thank you for sharing your time and space with me.
Thank you. Thank you, Caitlin. Every time I hear you talk about your story, I hear a little something I didn't hear before, and it's even more inspiring. And Caitlin mentioned the different coaches that she had in the services, and those connections to the coaches and the mentors is a really big piece of what makes Just in Time so special. Everything we do is supported by an incredible community of volunteers. And that's what makes it possible. We only have a staff of 36. So how do we serve 900 youth a year? Because of our volunteers. And you'll see on this slide I'm showing right now, I've outlined a couple of different volunteer engagement opportunities for your consideration. Everything from drives-through food cards to employment clothing for job seekers, as well as opportunities to, if you are an expert in something, to facilitate a workshop. You can become a coach or a mentor, which is a big part of our volunteerism. You could help a youth get set up in their first apartment through our My First Home service. That Caitlin mentioned that. Not only did she get to shop with a shopper in our warehouse, but then we loaded up on trucks and made sure everything was moved in for her. Or maybe your place of business has internships or shadowing opportunities. We also have corporate volunteer opportunity for anyone. If you want to get your place of business involved, you could host a virtual career panel event with us. We'd love that. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me afterwards if you're interested in getting involved. I just want to say thank you so much for inviting Caitlin and me to share your time and your space with us. And we're happy to answer any questions you have.
I'll just open, this is Gordon, I'll just open by adding on to Jennifer's comment that the opportunity that exists with Just in Time is a mutually beneficial volunteer opportunity. If you and or your employer make a decision to help assist by doing a career panel day, I can guarantee you that your employees who participate in it will get just as much out of it as the people on the Just in Time side of the mirror. And I say that from personal experience.
Well, thank you, Gordon. We'd so appreciate you bringing Just in Time to our attention, San Diego Kiwanis. Caitlin, what an amazing story. Jennifer, thank you. I mean, you articulated the value proposition so well and what the organization achieves every day. Susan has a question out there. Susan.
Yeah, I'm curious, how do you first connect with that foster youth? Like, is there a HIPAA component that you have to be careful of, or how do you first learn? Can you work with the county so you get those contacts to just start building that relationship before they scatter to the wind?
So there's a couple of different ways that we do outreach. We do presentations to local high schools. We have a partnership with San Diego Center for Children because they're the ones that are coming up through the system. And so the goal is for them to understand before they leave where they go, that there is a place, a community for them immediately. We also, there's a lot happening right now with SPA, Sam Spa Academy, but we had a partnership with them as well. One of our associate youth services director, came from SPA Academy. We also, even with Linsky Center, with those youth in there, we have a current partnership right now where we're doing lived experience coaches with their youth to prevent, it's more of a prevention to keep them out of the juvenile justice system. So those are just a couple of different partnerships. Plus, we have great relationships with all of the TV networks, with some of the local radio stations. We have a PR agency that, like Caitlin, I mean, the gem that she is, she happened to hear about us on the radio. So we do quite a bit. And there's other things that are right now in the works to gain, to try and get us onto more of a national scale of things. So to be sharing our model in a more intentional way across the country, because one of the things that drew me to Just in Time is there is nothing like it. Like you might find you know, in Baltimore, you'll find something like our My First Home service where they're giving, you know, former foster youth furnishing their apartments. But you won't find the entire picture of, you know, from employment to financial literacy to, you know, the coaching piece to the mental health and wellness piece, the whole enchilada. But that's a great question. And like I said, it is, we have somebody that actually is just in charge of outreach, because it is a big piece of what we do. We want them to know. We don't want anybody falling through the cracks. We really just want that bridge to come directly to us.
Jennifer, what's the best way for our club to help you?
I would say that depending on what what everybody's interested in, if you wanted to help as an organization, that, you know, that's one direction. That's one of the reasons why I shared the different opportunities to engage, because I think that some people would like to be a mentor or coach. Some people would like to get their business involved. Some people would even just want to do a peer-to-peer campaign. Some people might want to get their business involved in multiple different ways. So it's very individual. There's not necessarily one way to help. It depends on if you want to help individually as an organization, or you want to go back to your corporation and say, hey, we want to help these, can we do something to help these people? So it really depends. We try to make sure that we match up what somebody's intention is and what they're trying to do to the different needs that we have. Because again, with the different services, it's everything from the basic needs for rent assistance all the way up to furnishing apartments, to financial literacy, help with employment. So it's depends on if you're coming at it from an organizational standpoint or individual standpoint. Not to be vague, but that's why I gave all the different opportunities, because there's so many different ways.
I took a screenshot of that, so we're good on that front. Thank
well,
you.
I'm happy to email the whole presentation over too, so you can grab that screen specifically.
And as you all can imagine, the benefit of having that full carousel of wraparound services really does minimize the fall between the cracks that we see in some of the other counties across the country. Because again, all the way from the Dress for Success to the getting the right job to having the right transportation, there's so much potential for distraction factor if we don't have everything loaded up so that there's a recipe for moving forward from a trajectory standpoint. And that's what Just in Time provides, which also then creates a lot of opportunity for different opportunities. You can touch one piece of the chair on the carousel and still benefit the whole wraparound services of the whole carousel.
And it depends too on where a youth is at. We always say we meet the youth where they're at. So it's not a one size fits all. So when somebody walks in the door, the first person they're greeted by is a former foster youth. So it's not there, we say we're not an agency, we are a community. And so you might have somebody that comes in and maybe they already have, they know how they have a bank account, right? So where they land in the, in the financial literacy program is going to completely depend on where they're at right now. Do they need, emergency help? Do they need help finding an apartment? Do they have an apartment? They need rent assistance. Do they have an empty apartment? Do they need furniture? Do they need help finding employment? Where are they at on adverse childhood experiences? Do they need to learn how to cook? Then there's a whole series on that under the Rise to Resilience umbrella. It literally is whatever it is they need, we have it. And I think that's what makes it really special, is that it's not just, we're not just offering one thing. It's like we get to offer and cater to every youth that walks in that door based on where they're at in life and where they want to go. Because again, they're not broken, they're not deficient, they're creative, resourceful, and whole. And where do they want to go? And we're there to support.
In some cases, it might be as simple as having a printer and a laptop so that you can be competitive and not feel like you're walking into your freshman college class as your 18th birthday sits right on the horizon, and have everybody else in the class have it except for you.
Yeah, the College Bound services is pretty unique in that, like Caitlin was mentioning, she has a full ride to school right now. So there's a lot of scholarships, right? So we're not in the scholarship business because there are so many scholarships out there for former foster youth. That's not the problem. The problem is, how do you get them to go from getting into school to graduation? That's why the percentage on a national average, it's 3 to 6%. But the youth in our College Bound service, it's between, on the low end, it's 70% all the way up to 85% on any given year. And the reason behind that comes from that coaching and mentoring. So like, it starts with the laptop and the printer that Gordon mentioned. Plus we do a whole, they get a whole shopping day with their coach to get that weird fitted bed sheet that they need, and to get like the, all the other extra supplies that they need, so they have everything. But it's the support that we're with them right up until graduation, them and their mentor. Their mentor agrees to go to their college graduation, so they know they have a cheerleader. But if they get, with former foster youth, they get a flat tire and suddenly that derails them. Now they have to pick up extra shifts. Suddenly they're missing class, all the things that can happen. If you don't have family where you can say, hey, can you put some money in my bank account? Or can you send me an extra case of SpaghettiOs, or whatever that looks like? They have to make tougher choices. So because they have the support at Just in Time, as long as they're in school, that's why the graduation rate is so high, is because it's not just, here you have a scholarship, good luck, I hope it works out for you. It's like, hey, you have somebody here for you the whole time.
Incredible. Well, thank you again, Jennifer and Caitlin, for joining us today and everything that you do for foster youth here in San Diego County. And Caitlin, what an amazing story. Best of success in college. It's nowhere but bright lights and great future for you. So thank you.
I love that. Well, thank you so much.
Courtesy of our Zoom Pro.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it. We could talk about Just in Time all day long.
Thank you. And we'll definitely put our heads together as a club and figure out what components we can help to contribute in.
Wonderful. Thank you again so much.
You're welcome. Feel free to join us for the remainder of today's meeting. We're just going to go over some future dates and talk a little bit about good things that are happening with the club. Thanks. All right, it's that time where we say happy birthday to our April birthday babies out there. Mr. Doug Frost, still look like a little babe. Steve Morris, are you with us today? Please.
Steve just got married on Saturday, so I hope that he's enjoying his new life with his wife. So we'll have to find him at the next meeting.
A birthday and an anniversary all in the same month. Love and life. And Sean McCardle, dear Sean, have you recovered from our fabulous Kaiserhof happy hour? You out there, Sean?
He didn't make it, so I don't know what happened to him. He must have had too many of those Spottons last week.
Well, he messaged me and he said there was so much commotion because we had such a great turnout that he was like, his brain was definitely taxed from that date. So,
well, we'll find them all at the next meeting.
Yeah, happy birthday to all, and yeah, we'll catch up with you. What a great picture! That gentleman in the center, for those of you who don't know, is dear old Bill Gibbs. He, of course, started Montgomery Field and Gibbs Air Flying Service, and was a longtime Kiwanian and supporter of also the Salvation Army out there. And this is the time when we kind of convey what's good is happening. So we do our Bills Bucks, and it might be a buck for something that you're feeling great about, or maybe it's a sad dollar and you need to convey some information to the club. Anybody want to start off with a happy sad dollar today in honor of Bill Gibbs?
I'll start it off. I'm going to do a 10. My parents and brother came down this weekend and got to meet my dog, which was great, except they kept calling her fat and convinced me that she's deaf. So, good times. You got to love your fam. Wow. But I also wanted to put in some money for everyone that came out to our social last week. I had a really good time. It's just, I forgot how much I miss seeing everyone bi-monthly, well, actually really 3 times, 4 times a month. So it was nice just to connect in real life and not over the virtual. And lots more on the horizon. So I'm happy to hear, people are getting vaccinated and everything else. So we can hopefully get back to seeing all your beautiful faces soon. But yeah, 10 for me for my family fat shaming my poor little dog, and having a beautiful Easter though. We did actually our brunch at Bali High, which I have to say, if you ever want a first class place for brunch, Bali High was amazing. So that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Karina. And yeah, I feel bad for your dog. Your family needs a lesson in being good to canines, I guess. So thank you for that. Lauren, you have your hand up. What's going on?
I'll put 20 in just because I'm so happy that we had this presentation today. If you have children and they're 18 or above, you know that at 18, they were not that equipped. And it also brought it home to me when COVID hit and we just rolled right up to UCSD and picked up our kid and brought him home, and he is still living in his childhood room, and that doesn't happen either. And so it's always just so many more things to do when that's the situation you're in. So I really appreciate kind of the light that has continued to be shining on this issue. So $20 for that. I did get my first shot, so I'm happy about that. And my dogs are fat, and we just tell them that they're skinny. So we are the opposite of Karina's family. So
That's awesome, Lauren. I totally concur, particularly with the just-in-time piece. I kind of have to recalculate and reframe in my own mind. Since, Kiwanis is a children's organization, we think of children as kids and under 18 and all of this. But when you think about what Caitlin went through at such a young age, she was really robbed of her youth. So it's about, ensuring that that all those reparative measures be put in place. And we really can't forget that the idea, just because somebody turns 18 doesn't necessarily make them, an adult de facto. So thank you for that, Lauren. Any other bills, bucks out there before we move on?
I'll throw in 20, Mr. President, for not attending the happy hour, even though, as you can tell by Karina's face, I was supposed to be there and missed you all. I also thank Gordon, Jennifer, and Caitlin for that, for bringing Just in Time to us today. Yeah, looking forward to getting our club and some more of us individually involved. That has to be one of the most inspiring and courageous stories I've heard in a very, very long time. So thank you for that. And yeah, we also were able to get a vaccinated family together for the first time in 15 months over the holiday weekend, which was awesome. We feel very fortunate to be in that camp, and just how amazing modern medicine is today. And looking forward to continuing to see the light at the end of the tunnel get brighter.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, you were missed, and love your words on all other fronts, and concur on Just in Time and getting family together.
Mike, this is Sally.
Yeah, Sally.
I see that Daniel Martinez, who's the president of the Palm Springs Club, has joined us. And
wonderful. Hello, Daniel.
And in his honor, I'll donate $25 to Kiwanis San Diego and $25 to Kiwanis Palm Springs. And I wanted him to see what our club was like and the quality of the folks that I had the pleasure, joy, and just the wonderfulness of the San Diego Club. And we're going to replicate that. He's already got a great club. We're just going to make the club in Palm Springs bigger. And we're going to have fun.
I love it. So I love it. We'll have to we're going to have to bring the desert beaches and the beaches of San Diego together.
You
the
got
dunes
it.
And the beaches.
Yeah.
For a little inner club. Daniel, great to have you on board today as a guest. And yeah, Sally, thank you so much. What a great, such a great liaison between the two. Thank you, Sally. I knew just because you were moving to the desert did not mean that you were gonna, be any less of a Kiwanian.
They said I could be in both clubs, so I have to pay both dues, but I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that.
Right, that's great. That's
And
great. Thank
Sally, does Daniel know your legacy here of being the first gender crossing president in the history of San Diego?
I think I told him I was the first woman president in your history, but I didn't. Your club is our club is got so many accomplishments and so many wonderful things like today's program. It's okay. We're good. We'll have fun out here. It's going to be fun growing it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. And welcome again, Daniel. Any words you'd like to share regarding the Palm Springs Club? I've got my boss actually just moved out to Palm Springs and got to get him involved. In
Let him know he's muted. Oh, there you go.
Any words, Daniel?
I can't hear. We can't hear it, dear. Can you hear him? Can you help him?
I think he's unmuted. Daniel's unmuted. I think you might have to turn your volume up, perhaps.
There we go.
Or the mystery will live on.
The mystery will live on because we can't hear. Okay, but he'll come back and we'll have an inner club where we'll bring all the Palm Springs members back.
Yes, but make sure, Daniel, don't shave or we won't recognize you. So keep it going, okay?
That's great. All right, Daniel, if you get your audio worked out, you can jump in at any time. We'll go ahead and move forward. Yes, it's March Madness champs, and Karina's going to announce it. So for those of you who didn't know, there was another tournament going on. It wasn't just Gonzaga and Baylor in the end. Sorry about that, Gordon. Karina, why don't you give us the champ update?
So we did do a March Madness. Keep in mind, though, that there is an overall running toll. So just if you didn't show up in March, you still are in the running for our member of the year. But perfect attendance for all of our events, which were 2 luncheons, an online virtual game night, and our in-person social. Gordon, Doug, and Jay all made it to every single event that we hosted in May. So just love all 3 of you guys. Love your support. It's always great, every dynamic that you bring. Jay, especially when you bring Buddy to our in-person social events, which is wonderful. So yeah, we are going to do no tournament for April. Your points for today and the next couple events will go towards your overall score. But something fun will be up for May. So get ready for membership month, May. But special thanks to Gordon, Doug, and Jay for showing up. We appreciate you.
Super fun. Thank you. All right, there it is. Everybody in their full splendor at the March 31st Kaiser Hoff Social. I know personally I had a great time hanging out with the club, and my wife Christy was able to join us. And what can I say? I mean, Jim and his wife, they flew in special for the occasion. I came from Las Vegas. They had just been to Las Vegas. They came straight from the airport. So that was a lot of fun. And as Karina mentioned, Jay brought Buddy, and that was great. And Buddy was so silent the whole time. I almost forgot that Buddy was there. But,
yeah, where's Buddy in the picture? We didn't get Buddy up in the pic, did we?
I know. Jay's got him off of his right flank, and he's kind of out on the end there. But,
I think wasn't Jay supposed to pay a fine for bringing a Rotarian to our meeting?
Oh, good point.
I think I did.
Roll over fine.
I think you actually suggested the fine, Gordon. So
Well,
thank you for being our.
Jay, if my recollection is accurate, I think Joyce actually volunteered to pay the fine to Kiwanis because she knew it would be 1/10 of what it would be if the work got down the road.
That's right.
What Kiwanis them, right?
That's great.
Right.
Jim Melvin there is featured right in the center of the photo, and it's kind of apropos because, as you all know, he has such great enthusiasm and wonderful ideas. He is really pressing us to get back to meeting in person. As you can see, we're all there. We're all good. Most of us are vaccinated. Lord willing, everyone is going to be vaccinated by the time we do end up meeting in person. But Jim was really pitching us to meet at the Valley High. So not only did we hear from Karina that they have a great Easter brunch, but they're pining to get clubs and people to meet there at Valley High. So I think that Lauren's going to send out maybe a little survey and see where we're all at as far as whether we would like to meet in person for either the Power Hour, which is on the 20th, or our May event. Oh, here it is. So if you all can see the.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Lauren. What would you like to say about the survey?
Nothing, just, not that you can't read, but there are some questions. Have you received your vaccination? Would you attend an in-person meeting? And, kind of give us your feedback on it, and then we'll share it. And it'll help us kind of craft our meetings that are coming up. So it's just
Great.
kind of like a first look at meeting in person. How about that?
Yeah, that's wonderful. And for those of you who don't know, we would like to go back to Admiral Baker. However, given that they're fundamentally a federal institution, they're a little bit more conservative in terms of when they're going to reopen. However, with that said, there are other venues in Mission Valley who are ready and able. BJ is among them. And then, of course, Jim had proffered up Valley High, which is a great suggestion. But it's a little on the kind of West Coast flank of our club. So maybe it's a little farther for some to travel. But that's what we would like to do on that front. But yeah, the social was a great time. We've got another virtual trivia night coming up, right? There we go. All right, 5:30 on April 15th. I've actually got some friends who are now calling and pinging me saying, when's the next game night? Do you need a brilliant mind to support you? And I said, yes, I always need a brilliant mind to support me. So you're probably going to see some new faces on the April 15th game night.
Yeah, and we have Kiwanis Club of Concord is coming back. You all remember they had 5 members from Kiwanis Club of Concord on our virtual, and they plan to attend all of our virtual game nights moving forward. So we'd like to get a lot of good member teams from us to compete against them. I seem to have really stumped them because they got in last place, mainly because we have so many Jeopardy experts in our crew. One person I think we should not let come again is Brian, or maybe just lay off the sauce before you come. Someone was very distracting and derailed me like numerous times. Just kidding, Brian. I love you.
Me, Brian? There must be another Brian in this.
Either that, Brian, or you have to get a mixologist for all of us to attend our own, in-house.
I just wanted to bring you to my happy hour. That's all.
No, I'm kidding. I enjoyed it, and I hope to have more. We have a lot of fun. I'm going to curate some good content, so I hope to see you next Thursday. We normally do a warm up at 5:30, and then the official game starts at 6. I've got the power.
All right, Power Hour coming up. This is our renewal, refresh, repurpose our mission, and to get us all attenuated to what is it to be a Kiwanian, and how can we bolster membership? How can we rally around a team, or i.e. committee concepts in terms of where you would like to be positioned in these extra activities to help the club along. So on April 20th, we're going to have a power hour of speakers, concepts, discussion topics to reinvigorate the club. All right. We want your feedback in the form of surveys. As you saw, Lauren just put up a quick survey. That's just one example of surveys that we have, but we are going to distribute out another survey that will come in the form of a link, as my impression, and it's just going to cover areas that you may be interested in getting involved in, and other feedback for relative to the club. And what do we say? Maybe half a week or a week that'll be distributed out. What's your thought?
It'll go out this week, and we'd really like everyone to give us feedback within a week so that we can gather everyone's feedback and share kind of how people are feeling in the club at our member power hours. So you may get a few emails and texts and calls to please fill that out. But we really would like to hear from every member of the club. It's our goal to come up with kind of a 3-year plan for where we want to go. We did a retreat, which I think was almost like 10 years ago now, it feels like. So I think it's just a good time post, this plague to just all figure out where we want to go. And I think, it's a perfect time to do it. So, but please fill out that survey, because we can't forecast where we want to go if we don't know where our members are at. So that will be going out this week, and we look forward to hearing all of your responses.
Great ad.
Oh.
Okay, May 4th, we've got Gina Jacobs from SDSU joining us. Brian, are you our chairman of the day on that particular date?
It's
Given
Jay.
you are- Oh,
Oh,
it's
it's
Jay.
Jay. I was
Okay.
going to say that sounds more like Jay, but
Got
yeah,
it.
that'll be
Well,
great.
Okay, very good.
I did check out the Aztec experience down in Mission Valley, and it's pretty impressive what that stadium is going to do to that area. Along with all the other development. But if you get a chance, I know Gordon's been down there.
Well, not only have I been down there, but I actually have still 2 seats left in a 10-seat Loge box. If anybody gets excited enough out of Gina's presentation, I might be able to roll you into that. So
Oh, got
Awesome.
it. I
Jay?
committed to 2 tickets, Gordon, and I said, can you tell me where Gordon is seated? And the representative let me know, and I said, oh no, I can't sit there. That's a little too rich for my blood. But
That's hilarious.
yeah, it is pretty amazing. That's going to be a terrific venue for not just football games, but concerts and other events, soccer, and a lot of other NCAA events. So should be pretty great asset to have in the community. And they give you a great idea of what's going on with the river park as well.
Fantastic. Jay, any tidbits or any advance on the date here for May
No,
4th?
they're just saving a bunch of major breakthroughs to present to Kiwanis.
Excellent. Okay, good. We're looking forward to that. Thank you. Governor Gary's virtual visit on May 8th via Zoom. Submit your best family photo, and I believe with pup, if you have a dog, and you can also put your pup into the family photo. So we'd like everyone to submit those.
And I know people aren't a big fan of our Cal Neva Kiwanis events, but these are fun. If you went to the one last year, we will be announcing our member awards. I will be hosting a family feud. It is Mother's Day weekend, I know, but if you don't have any hot pressing plans on a Saturday night of Mother's Day weekend, love to have you there, and we'll send out more info. I did put the link. The last link I put in the chat is for submitting those photos. And it would be great if everyone could, just to show off how awesome and how many great families we have in this club. And our division hasn't submitted very many, so would appreciate if everyone could just take a minute or two and submit a photo.
All right, it's that time. It's time to guess whose pupperoo we're looking at. Ooh, and today we have 2 pups for a parent.
This is a challenging one because, and I'll give you a clue, we don't see this member that often, but it's a very monumental member at our club. And also holds a very valuable position in Kiwanis.
Gordon Borner.
Tom.
It is.
Mark McDonald.
Yep.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Yeah, who just recently moved to Canyon Lake. That is a picture of his new deck. And those are his 2 dog names, but he didn't get back to me in time for me to know their names. So these are, they're adorable little mountain dogs.
Incredible.
All right, that's the end. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube. I do put all of the meetings on there. I record them from our Zoom and put them up there. So if you ever miss out or want to go and rewatch our amazing program or share it with someone else, all of those programs are available on there. And also, share our events on Facebook, say that you're going to our events on Facebook, that kind of stuff. Great way for us to get new membership using these social media tools.
Thank you very much for that, Karina. And as always, for putting the presentation together. You are a Zoom superstar. And with that, we'll bring the meeting to a close. Thank you all for joining us.